The Upanishads are the foundational texts of Hindu philosophy. They are dedicated to mapping the exact relationship between human consciousness and the fabric of reality. It is easy to look back at thousands of years of ancient Indian thought and assume these texts operate as a single, unified theological monolith. A close reading reveals something far more complex. The Upanishads contain fiercely competing architectural models of the cosmos, built directly on top of one another. To see this mechanical divide, we can examine three specific texts: the Adhyatma, the Kaivalya, and the Sharabha Upanishads. The first model is absolute non-dualism, a horizontal architecture where every element flattens into a single supreme consciousness called Brahman. The second model shatters that equality, engineering a rigid vertical chain of command with one deity at the apex. These texts are highly precise, opposing ontological blueprints, each attempting to mathematically define the absolute mechanics of existence. The Adhyatma Upanishad operates on a strict algorithm of subtraction. Its stated goal is to isolate pure consciousness by systematically stripping away every physical and mental layer of the human experience. To achieve this, the text relies on the concept of adhyasa, or superimposition. It argues that the physical body and the empirical ego are illusions, layered over the true, ultimate reality. This diagram tracks the method of negation, neti. The Upanishad deletes the physical elements: earth, water, fire, and air. These materials are unaware of the observer within. The subtraction then moves inward. The mind and intellect dissolve, leaving only a single point of awareness. This remaining formless point is Nirguna Brahman. It is the witness, the ultimate non-dual self, entirely detached from the mechanics of the body and the mind. This microscopic deconstruction of the human body scales perfectly to the macroscopic cosmos in the Kaivalya Upanishad. Look at this horizontal network map. Shloka 8 of the Kaivalya Upanishad takes the major personified deities of the Hindu pantheon and collapses them onto a single egalitarian plane. The text is explicit in its logic. It states, "He is Brahma, he is Shiva, he is Indra, he is the imperishable, supreme, self-luminous Vishnu." They are identical expressions of the same center. In this non-dual architecture, absolute reality demands the complete collapse of both physical human identity and divine hierarchy. Everything reduces to a single flat point of awareness. This perfect detachment creates an immediate logical paradox. If the enlightened mind completely severs its connection to the physical world, why doesn't the physical body instantly cease to exist? The Adhyatma Upanishad provides a precise mechanical solution to this problem through the state of Jivan Mukti, or living liberation. The core obstacle in this system is the massive accumulation of past actions, or karma, which dictates and sustains physical existence. While cognitive enlightenment instantly burns away millions of accumulated past actions, there is a specific subset called prarabdha karma. These are the actions already set into motion to create the current life. To explain how this works, Shlokas 53 and 54 of the Adhyatma Upanishad use the physics of a released arrow. If an archer releases an arrow at a target, but realizes mid-flight that the target is an illusion, that cognitive realization does not stop the arrow. In this diagram, that arrow represents prarabdha karma. Once the kinetic energy leaves the bow, it must exhaust itself through physical momentum, independent of what the archer now knows. The physical body of the enlightened person continues its trajectory purely on this exhausted momentum. It is no longer sustained by the self's ongoing attachment. The ego, the archer, is completely gone, but the body, the arrow, will fly until it inevitably hits the ground. The Upanishads engineer rigorous logical mechanisms to account for the lag between cognitive enlightenment and physical death. The Sharabha Upanishad marks a severe structural departure from that flat, non-dual architecture. This specific text abandons the pursuit of universal abstract monism. Its epistemological goal is entirely different, establishing specific theological supremacy. As seen here, the egalitarian plane of deities shatters, extruding into a three-tiered pyramid. At the absolute apex, the text places Maheshwara, a form of Shiva. Below him, Vishnu and Brahma are locked into subordinate base tiers. They are no longer equal, they are subordinates. To justify this hierarchy, the Sharabha Upanishad treats highly detailed mythological events as hard structural proof. Shlokas 4 through 6 cite a Puranic myth where Shiva takes on the terrifying composite form of a beast known as Sharabha. The singular purpose of this form is to subdue and overpower Vishnu's immensely powerful Narasimha, or Lion Man, avatar. By citing this mythological victory, the text constructs a logical argument that Shiva is the entity that physically disciplines Vishnu and ultimately creates Brahma. The mechanism for human liberation in this system also shifts. It is no longer achieved through the abstract negation of the self, but through targeted devotion to the entity at the apex of the pyramid. Unlike the Kaivalya text, the personified deities here are not illusions to be stripped away. They are hard, structural realities that the practitioner must navigate. The Sharabha Upanishad actively uses Puranic myth to engineer an inescapable theological hierarchy, deliberately overwriting the flat playing field of pure non-dualism. Looking at these two competing models side by side in this diagram clarifies the divide. On the left, the concentric rings of formless consciousness. On the right, the rigid pyramid of deity supremacy. The evidence shows that the Upanishadic tradition is entirely devoid of monolithic agreement. These texts serve dual, directly opposing purposes within the exact same corpus. The approach of the Adhyatma and Kaivalya texts is epistemic. Liberation is achieved by realizing that you are the architecture itself. The approach of the Sharabha text is strictly hierarchical. Liberation is achieved by submitting to the architect at the top of the pyramid. How should an analytical mind read these documents today? They fail when read merely as vague, mystical poetry designed to evoke a spiritual feeling. They succeed when read as rigorous, competing ontological blueprints that attempt to mathematically map the nature of reality. Understanding ancient Indian thought requires looking past surface-level spirituality. It requires analyzing the precise, contradictory structural mechanics these authors use to define the absolute.